bigger news, and yet again, more bombshells to rock the royal family. That book is out. Amy Wallace co-authored Virginia Giuffre's posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl. She was on the BBC last night.
I know that she would view it as a victory, that he was forced, by whatever means, to voluntarily give them up. And it also is just a step in the right direction. You know, Virginia wanted all the men who she'd been trafficked to against her will to be held to account.
Let's turn to Jack Royston, who's chief royal correspondent at Newsweek. What are the major revelations of which we're learning last night and this morning, Jack? Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So I think one of the, obviously, you know, for a reader, the most emotional stuff is going to be the abuse itself. We did know a lot of Virginia's experiences at that department because she's given interviews, but also she wrote this earlier book that was never published, which was included in court filings. So many of us in the media had already read very, very similar passages to some of the contents of this book. But there is, of course, also a lot of new detail in there. For example, Virginia describes failed suicide attempts in the same year as she settled the lawsuit with Prince Andrew, and she talks about how she took, 250 pills to try to escape the nightmares that she was experiencing, in which she had to relive the abuse, but also some of the stinging, biting, horrible things that people were saying about her on social media, and some of the attacks on her character. She talks about a specific one from, an ex-girlfriend of Prince Andrew, and I won't repeat some of the nasty things that were said, but she talks about that, and she talks about actually, she accuses Sarah Ferguson of launching a kind of PR campaign on behalf of Prince Andrew, defending him on television just before Virginia filed her lawsuit against Andrew in 2021. She feels that they must have known that was coming because the deadline for filing that case was impending, and Sarah Ferguson went on UK TV to defend her ex-husband. So there is a lot in that kind of the kind of fight back phase of the book, the later chapters and passages of the book that will be new even to journalists who have been following this story very closely. But it is, of course, worth remembering that actually to a lot of people who want to go out and buy that book and read it, they will read some of her core allegations as new because they won't remember every single detail of them in the way that we do in the media. I've been reporting on this story for years, and so even specific passages of what Virginia put into this previous unpublished book had lodged themselves in my mind, and I recognized them as I was reading. But of course, that won't be the case for most readers.
Where does the story go next, Jack?
The Andrew aspects of it specifically, he is absolutely not out of the woods. So if the Metropolitan Police are taking a look at, which does not quite mean yet investigating, these claims that he asked his police protection officer to dig up dirt on Virginia. Now, if that builds steam, if the police decide to investigate, if it turns into a prosecution, that could actually see Andrew in court. It could see him charged with a criminal offence. We don't know what he says about it. He might well deny it. But you, Nick, I'm sure will remember misconduct in a public office as a charge from the Operation Alverton press cases. And there is a real prospect that anybody who was considered to be involved in a conspiracy to commit misconduct in a public office could be hauled in and interviewed, investigated, even charged. So it might not even stop with Andrew. It could involve anybody in the police if they had done what he'd asked, which they may well not have done. Also, Andrew told the Queen's Deputy Press Secretary that he was doing this, that he sent that email to the Queen's Deputy Press Secretary, which means the palace knew that he had done this, that he had made this request to the police protection officer. So the potential for that blast to ripple through the whole of the institution of the monarchy is ever present.
Lastly, as it's now reported that Prince Andrew was deemed a potential national security risk because of his links to alleged Chinese spies, isn't it time for a full parliamentary debate about this man?
Well, those are matters for Parliament. I know that some people have put down some requests for debates. Those are things that the Speaker of the House of Commons will make a decision on. And the
you would support such a debate?
The Speaker. Well, we will support any actions that the Speaker of the House of Commons, independently of government, takes.
As the government is doing all it can to get growth going, how do you feel that he's not paid rent on his 30-room mansion for 20 years, Mr. Kyle? This is so out of step with the people you're trying to help up at there at Edgbaston, isn't it?
Well, on that particular matter, that's a lease with the Crown Estate, and those are matters for the King. They're not matters for government or myself. But let me be really clear, because we are talking about a situation, and we're talking on the day when the memoirs of Virginia Giuffre are released. Once again, the spotlight is on the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Let's stay focused on that. And I don't want to go down. I don't want to give the impression that I am not, 100% focused on their needs on a day like this, because the crimes that were committed by Jeffrey Epstein are horrific, horrendous. The legacy of those crimes is still ongoing today, and I urge anyone who has any information or can contribute towards justice and information for those victims to make sure they are engaging as freely and openly as possible.